What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 30 of the Half Price Concessions podcast featuring Dennis McDonald. Before we get to Dennis, I want to give a big thank you to everybody listening. Whether this is your first episode or you've listened to plenty in the past, we appreciate you being here and listening. We really do. Do us a favor. If you're listening on a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, one of those, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If there's a section to leave us a review and a rating, please do so. It would really help us out a ton. I would really appreciate it. If you're listening to this on our YouTube page, hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button. Thank you so much in advance for that. That will help us out as well. Also, before we get into Dennis, I know I keep backing him up a little bit. Want to remind you that we debuted our new Sunday series podcast episodes this previous Sunday. They're short 10 to 15 minute messages, episodes where we dive into the Word of God and talk about all kinds of stuff. We talk about Scripture. We talk about life application of the Bible and the Word of God and salvation. So I encourage you, be on the lookout for those episodes on Sundays. Our new Sunday series, we debuted it this past Sunday. We'll have new episodes every Sunday for you to listen to. Now on to Dennis McDonald. Dennis he occupies a pretty cool space. If you go to the racetrack on Saturday nights at Orange County SPeedway, or if you go to Wake County Speedway sometimes, you'll hear Dennis calling races. And Dennis is one of the best in the region. Smooth tone, easy going, and knows what and who he's talking about. Sunday mornings, he turns that around, puts the suit on, stands in the pulpit, and preaches the Word of God at the Providence Baptist Church over in Roxboro. Super nice guy, easy to get along with, easy to get to know. And I'm glad me and Dennis have gotten to know each other over the years as race announcers, and we've even worked together on a couple of shows. But I really think you guys will enjoy this conversation with Dennis. We dive into race announcing, preaching, tying it all together, and just how good the Lord has been to us. So on the other side of this break, we'll dive into it. Dennis McDonald of Orange County Speedway and Providence Baptist Church and plenty of other entities joins us on the other side of this break for a conversation. This episode of the Half Price Concessions podcast is brought to you with support from Performance Center Racing Warehouse. In addition to being the home of the PRW chassis, Performance Center offers in-house setups and consulting, plus suspension and chassis pull-down analysis, along with their fabrication shop that can re-clip your race car with the fastest turnaround in the industry. Give Roger Johnson and the Performance Center team the chance to earn your racing business by calling them today at 704-838-1400 or visit them online at performancecenter.com. That's PERFORMANCENTER.com. My brother Dennis McDonald, glad to see you again, sir. Glad to finally get you on the podcast. I know we ain't had no racing really much to announce, you and I. That's what you and I do as our side hustles. But what's been occupying your time here under all this Corona stuff?
Well, Tyler, to tell you the truth, and first of all, thank you for letting me be on today. I've had so much to do between family and church that I really hadn't had too much time to think about racing. But as we were just talking about, it's still on my mind, and we were just talking about a motor mile not running this year. And so that's kind of a concern, because I know a lot of people are getting a little bit antsy and a little bit nervous that if we'll have a 2020 season or not. Hopefully we will, but I've been really busy here at the church and really busy with family. So I really...
Hadn't made no difference to you,
it's
has
kind of
it?
been on the back burner.
It almost makes you wonder, like, where we find the time to even go do all this, going to races and announcing races that we do.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny how time gets put in perspective because of something like this.
Exactly. And but when the time comes, I'm sure I'll find the time and I'll be right back in the middle of it again.
You occupy a pretty cool space in my mind where you announce races on Fridays and Saturdays, and then you standing in the pulpit on Sunday preaching. Just from the aesthetic of, where you're doing a whole lot of talking and you got people around you and stuff, is there a lot that crosses over as far as like the way you do things, or is it like two completely different things and nothing crosses over, nothing compares to calling a race and preaching a sermon?
That is probably a pretty good question, and I never really thought about it. But yeah, there is some crossover, because even when I'm at the racetrack, I promote the Lord and also promote Providence Baptist Church. And one of the things that I do at the Orange County SPeedway is that every Saturday night, I asked them for permission to do this years ago, that I would do a possible entry sheet. And on that entry sheet, we got this is given by Providence Baptist Church. It gives the times and of our events and things. And talking about the crossing over, when they all show up over the years, we now have 22 racers and their families that come to church here.
Cool.
Now, don't come Sunday looking for all 22 of them.
Yeah.
Because some of them are a little bit sporadic. Actually, there's 24. I forgot about 2.
Okay.
It's actually 24. And so it's a pretty good little group. And I think there is a crossover. Yeah. And maybe not place to say it, but sometimes they get some pretty good illustrations in my sermon of being out there.
There you go. I always told, because I've gotten to preach twice, so nowhere near what you do every Sunday. Mm-hmm. But I told my wife, I think she was asking if I was nervous, and I said, man, I'm more nervous to preach than I am calling a race. And she said, well, you do public speaking all the time. And I said, no, at the racetrack, they're looking at the track. They're not looking at me. At church, they're staring at you the whole time, unless they're looking for a verse. So I told her, I was like, that's a little different for me.
And it is different. And even for me, it seems like I can get to the racetrack and stand in front of all those folks and not get nervous. But here at the church, there are times when I'm very nervous. And for instance, these things that we're having to go through with the coronavirus, being on YouTube, being online. I said this, I don't know if you saw it or not, when you was viewing our sermon from last Sunday on Facebook. I said before we started preaching that I was more nervous that morning than I was before I got married.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, my heart was racing. So there's a lot of things that's going on that's making things change. But yeah, there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah. So how long have you been calling races? How long have you been doing this on your Fridays and Saturdays?
I started at Orange County SPeedway as their track chaplain in April 2001.
Okay.
And if you got time, I'll tell you how that happened.
We got plenty of time.
Okay.
We ain't got to fit no commercial breaks in. So you can let a rotator chip.
We moved here to Person County at Providence Baptist Church, and my youth director was going to preach on Sunday morning. And so I told my wife, I said, I think I'm going to do something tonight I hadn't done in a long time. She said, what's that? I think I'm going to go to a race at Orange County SPeedway. She said, fine, go on. Well, I went, sat down there in the first turn where it's non-alcoholic seating, And before I left, honestly, this had not crossed my mind. And during the race, thought went through my mind, I wonder if they got a track chaplain.
Okay.
And at the same time, I didn't know what a track chaplain was supposed to do. And so after the race, I started asking questions, and that was back in the day when Andy Russell was running the place. And I kept asking questions. I finally found out who I need to talk to. Andy said, come see me on Tuesday. So I walked in the house on Saturday night, and I was grinning from ear to ear. My wife said, what have you done? I said, I think I got a job for Saturday nights. And so I was the track chaplain after Andy and I talked. And during that time, maybe 7, 8 years ago, I just made a comment that if Tim Chandler ever quit, Tim was the track announcer. I did not want Tim's job, but if Tim ever quit, I wanted to announce one race just to get it off my bucket list.
Just to say you did it.
Right. And so during the winter, the track called me and said, Tim has quit. Were you serious? And I said, yeah, I'd like to do one race. They said, no, we're talking about the whole season. And so anyway, I went out there and talked to them, and so that is blossomed into far more than I ever thought it would. But I think this will be my 6th season, maybe 7th season at Orange County, and it'll be my 3rd or 4th season at Wake County.
Okay.
And of course, I fit in a few others along the way, but it's really got much bigger than I ever thought it would.
Did it take you a while to kind of learn kind of what to do and how to do things? Because it's not just talking. It's knowing who you're talking about. It's learning kind of I always say how not to over talk, how to keep your breath, and also how to do interviews, because you have to do interviews too.
That's right, and it's really, I think in a way it may have helped me some even in the pulpit, but yeah, it's not. If anybody's just listening on the radio, you think that's a pie job, but before the race, you really work harder than you do during the race. Now, Orange County, you got all them steps you got to go up and down.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, you got to find out the driver, who they are, the car number, find out their sponsorship, so on, so on. So it's a lot of things you got to do so you won't sound dumb on the radio and the grandstand. I keep saying radio because ours out here in Orange County are on WKRX.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a little bit of double duty for you.
You're
not just on the PA, you're on the.
Yeah.
Is that a pretty powerful station?
It reaches all the way to Durham, up past Danville, all the way to Mebane.
So you got like millions of people listening.
But we got a lot of people if they all turn it on.
Yeah, there we go.
and even doing that, you got to stop for your commercial breaks.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on. You got to kind of be on your toes.
I tell you what, it really taught me. So I got started in 2010, and I had been doing some small like stick and ball sports, not racing, and I'd always listen to MRN and PRN for like NASCAR, and I didn't shortchange what they did, but to me it just seemed like, man, that sounds like something fun. It don't seem too hard. But then when I started just doing ACE and we were doing a little bit of radio in years to come, I was like, man, this is you got to fill this time. This is a lot of talking. Like I would get done with races. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to talk anymore. I was just so talked out. I was like, I just want to ride and quiet on the way home and go to sleep.
Well, out here at Orange, we start qualifying at 5:30, and so I start running my mouth from 5:30 till it's in.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of talking.
Plus the conversations you have on pit road.
That's right.
Because you are now recognizable. Now everybody wants to come talk to you. You the announcer.
Yeah, and they all want me to solve all the problems.
Exactly. You got a double sword. You get the double edge. What's been kind of your most fun with it? Like I'll give you an example. So like for me, as time has gone on and I've been doing it for 10 years, I try not to be a homer, but I tell people I can't help but just fall in love and just enjoy seeing the first time winners. Like when Thomas Chappell last year, I did the PRA race at Orange County, and it was the 8th race of the night. I was tired of them steps. I was worn out. I was getting grumpy, and Thomas won the race, and he was so emotional down there, and that was his first win at Orange County, and that to me made the whole night, was just seeing how much it meant to him to win. So that's always been to me. What's been the moment you enjoy?
You kind of took the steam out of what I was fixing to say, because that's immediately fast went through my mind was watching the guys grow and being there when they won that first race, and it's something that you just won't never ever forget. I've seen them cry. I've seen them be so excited that they can't even talk. Some of them can't even be still. It's just amazing. But I think, though, Tyler, also, when you're talking about being fun, when you see guys grow up and kind of mature. They're out there, I call them youngins. Every little thing, they just fly off the handle and want to fight. But I guess it's because I've been out there so long, some of those youngins have grown up. And now you see them being real men and handling things differently. Yeah. So I kind of like that too. That's fun too.
Yeah. Now Orange County is where I mostly know you from, but you've also announced other places. So where else have you announced?
Okay, I have done Wake for the last. I think this will be going on the 3rd or the 4th year. I've lost count.
Yeah.
And that's over there in Garner, America's favorite bull ring, they call themselves.
It's a hidden gem, man. I tell so many people that place, like, it's not, it's a little out there, but if you will just go and watch just a weekly show, you're like, man, this is a cool, and a little quarter mile, barely nothing, and it will put on good racing.
Oh, they put on a good show. I know Mike Stoddard, when he had the lease of the place years ago, he said, hey, I need you to come announce. I said, Mike's too far for me to go. Then I saw him at the Piedmont Racing Expo. He said, look, I need you. You need to help me. Come help me out. And I said, okay, I'll come one race. But in the meantime, Charlie Hanson ended up running it. and Charlie agreed to let me, as the agreement Mike had with me. And the first time I walked out there, I thought, well, I'd been to a race there, but sitting in the grandstand is different than being in the middle of stuff, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I walked in, I thought, what kind of mess is this? And but when they dropped the green flag, it all changed. Yeah. And to me, that's one of the best racetracks around here.
Oh yeah, I had gone to a weekly show there, and I had enjoyed myself, even though I picked the wrong time to go. I think I picked July, and I picked a 110-degree night, and the bugs were getting me, but it was still entertaining. But I went a couple years ago when Car Store came there, and seeing that place packed to the brim and the good racing that was on, I was just like, man, this place is something.
Once they get racing, you forget about it being a quarter mile.
You really do.
You think
really
of it as a big track like Martinsville somewhere, you know, they get it on. And what I like about it, we don't have that many far as car counts, but I think this year they was looking forward to having even more because they went NASCAR sanctioning. But if we'd have 7 or 8 in the late model, most every Friday night, 6 of them would lead that race.
Yeah.
All of them were real close.
Now, I know you came to Ace a couple times, you and I announced together. Have you gotten to go anywhere else other than those 3 tracks and announce?
I think that's it.
That's it?
I think that's it.
Oh, man.
I thought I was going to go to Caraway one night to help somebody else, but it worked out. I didn't have to go. That's okay.
Yeah. It's funny, one thing that happens, and you can reiterate this, when you become a short track announcer in this area because there's so many tracks, your number starts getting passed around. And you start getting calls from like, hey, can you come fill in for such and such and such and such? And all of a sudden you have to start prioritizing like family time and other things that come up because there's not a lot of people that do this. You and I have talked about this a ton just in conversation. There's not a lot of people that do what we do.
Well, because of you, I was supposed to have done that PRA race last night at Wake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I'm not doing PRA this year.
And, you know, but it didn't work out. In fact, cars was scheduled to be in Orange County this weekend, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, this thing's just kind of put everything on the back burner.
If you want to count one more, I did do the radio at South Boston one night.
I was about to say, I forgot about that. Now, what was that like? What did you think of that place?
Oh, well, I've been going to South Boston ever since I lived down here or moved up here. When I first came, people in this area was talking about Orange County, Orange County, Orange County. And then some of them said, well, there's South Boston over there, but you ain't going to like South Boston. I said, why not? They said, well, it's just so tight. Nobody can't race. And so I never been, so I didn't know. But you remember back in 2003 to 2005, Orange was closed. I think that's the right numbers. And so I started going to South Boston, and I said, wow, this is a racetrack.
It's a cool joint.
And that's when Denny Hamlin was running over there.
Yep.
And Timothy Peterson, man, they put on a show on Saturday night. So anybody says they can't race at South Boston, in my opinion, they hadn't told you the truth.
Yeah.
Now, Orange may put on a better show as far as getting the side-by-side stuff, but they can do good races at South Boston.
So how'd you end up on the radio at South Boston?
Adam Cole.
Okay.
He needed somebody to take Kevin Bullock's place that night, so Adam called me.
Gotcha. So you didn't,
like you say, the numbers are out there.
Exactly. So that had to be quite different for you because you're used to track announcing where you're running up and down and you're all over, whereas doing radio, you're a little more stationary, right? You didn't have to do a lot of running, did you?
Nope. I just sat there in one spot. In fact, there were several times I've kind of caught myself fixing to get up to go run. Wait a minute, I got to sit here.
Yeah. So I heard you talk about when you moved down here or moved to this area. Where did you come from originally?
Rockingham, North Carolina's my home. North Carolina Motor Speedway.
Okay.
That's my home. And then when I went into the ministry, my first church was in Sampson County, near a little place called Piney Green.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you've been North Carolina the whole way through?
All the way.
That's nice. That's awesome. So kind of to put a bow on the racing thing, is there somewhere out there that like you've been to or gone to a race and you've kind of like envisioned in your head, like, man, I'd love to be on a call for a place like this? Like, is there anywhere out there like on like a bucket list for you that you just love to call a race at if you could just get one opportunity?
If there'd be a bucket list, I'd like to do the one at Martinsville at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to do that one.
That'd be a fun one.
That would be a fun one.
Just don't make you climb all them steps.
No, I could just sit up there and watch it. But Yeah, that would probably be the bucket list if I got one to do that big late mall race.
Yeah,
That'd be the bucket list.
Plus, you get free hot dogs.
Could I get free hot dogs?
I mean, maybe.
Maybe.
If you work in there, you'd think you get a discount on the $2 hot dogs.
I've been to some tracks that don't give me nothing.
Really? Daggum. I had a guy offer me a job one time. He said, I can either pay you $75 cash or I can give you 50 and feed you. And I was like, I think I'll take the 75 and go hit the dollar menu at McDonald's. Right. And it ended up not having no races at all. Mm-hmm. It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
We had a guy at Ace one time. Brad told this story on a previous episode where he wanted to pay this guy to come work kind of security, and he said, "You got to pay me, just feed me." Mm-hmm. Well, then he come to find out, he said, "I'd have been better off paying him." He said, because he was eating me out of house and home. He was eating $20 worth of food a night.
But on the other hand, though, I've always felt like wherever I've worked at, if you want to call it work, everybody's been real kind to me.
Yeah.
And you always got guys down in the infield say, hey, like out here at Orange, Smokey Daves, he's always fixing stuff down in the first turn for the Mod 4 guys.
Yeah.
He's always got plenty of food left over. Come on in the trailer and get you a plate.
You ain't going to go hungry at the racetrack.
You ain't gonna go hungry.
That's for sure. So tell me about, as we kind of pivot a little bit here, when did you know what? I was going to ask what got you into ministry, but I think, to be fair, we probably need to go further back and just talk about when did you come to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Tell me a little bit about your testimony.
Well, that'd go all the way back when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
I was just like everybody else. When the invitation was given, my heart was flying, and I held on to the pew like I'm going to fall if I turn loose. And that went on for quite some time. And the truth is still the truth. If you ever make that first step, you won't remember the rest of them. And so I went down when I was 12 years old. It was at Ledbetter Methodist Church. I grew up in a little community called Ledbetter's. And I know some people say I was sprinkled, but I tell even the Baptists that I was baptized.
There you go.
And I tell them I was baptized in the Methodist Church, initiated into the Baptist.
There you go.
But, it's the heart that matters. And so I got saved when I was 12 years old.
Wow. Okay. Now, did you have a full kind of idea of what you were getting into with that, or did it kind of take some time for you to kind of learn what that was going to entail? Never
crossed my mind to be a preacher till I was probably in my 20s, maybe 26, 27 years old after I got married. And then all of a sudden it seemed like, could I do that for some reason?
Yeah.
Is it a possibility for some reason? And it's amazing the things I did that even though I didn't realize it, the Lord was preparing me to go into the ministry. Okay. For instance, when I was working at Purdue Farms, I was a superintendent on the night shift. I had over 300 associates under me and 8 supervisors. And so by working with them, that prepared me to work with people, because with that many people, you had all kind of problems.
Yeah.
And even at Purdue, I started a prayer meeting.
Like in the break room or something like that?
In the break room before we started work.
Wow.
And first night, I think there was 3 of us showed up. As time went on, I think we had close to 12 or 13 to show up.
Now, would you preach, or would you just have a prayer?
Well, what we do, we just come in and talk for a little bit. What kind of days you have? You got any concerns on your heart? And I mostly let them do the talking and let me tell them what was burdening them. And one may say, well, husband lost his job today, or I got a child that's homesick, but I had to come to work. And just let them tell me. Then that's what we prayed about. Okay. And of course, we did pray that we'll have a safe night at work and be a productive night. But I just kind of let them do it, and then we just prayed together.
So that started preparing you.
And then I had a guy in the church at Robertdale Baptist, after I made the conversion from the Methodist to the Baptist. He came up to me one day out of the blue, and he said, "I think you'll make a good Gideon." And I said, Gideon?
People that pass out the Bibles.
Yeah. And I said, Gideon? He said, yeah, I think you'll make a good one. And so I had to go through all the little steps so I could go to churches and do the presentation, to get money so we could buy the Bibles. And the first place I went, I'm probably taking too much time.
Dennis, we got plenty of time.
By the time I got to the first place, I knew then that God was wanting me to go into the ministry, but I didn't want to go.
You were fighting it.
I had a good job at Purdue Farms as a superintendent, making good money, loved the work. And first place I went, it's amazing how God works out stuff. Got there, the people, I asked them, I said, who's going to lead the music today? Well, we thought you would. Who's going to make the announcements today? Well, we thought you would. So I ended up walking in, never been in that church before in my life. It was in Bennettsville, South Carolina, and I did the whole thing for them. And then gave the Gideon message as well. As the lady was counting the money that we took up that day, and there was 2 or 3 men in the corner of here talking, and after she counted the money, of course she gave it to me, and I was fixing to go home, and the guy said, hey, we don't have a pastor. We're wondering if you would come and fill in for a while.
So that's why they were asking you to do everything. They didn't have anybody.
Yeah, they didn't.
Wow.
I didn't know that till I got there.
Yeah, of course not.
and of course I told them, no, and I left. Well, the next time I went out for the Gideons, I ended up in Albemarle, North Carolina, and gave the Gideon message and got ready to leave. The guy looked at me that was the preacher there. He said, have you ever considered going into the ministry? You got real good pulpit manners. Okay. And no, it won't okay.
Nope.
On the way home, I said, I don't care what I do, God. I can't run, can I?
No.
And so I finally gave in.
He's going to get your attention one way or another.
And I went into the ministry, gave up my job at Purdue. Me and the wife went to Hendersonville, North Carolina with 2 small boys, where I could go to the Fruitland Baptist Bible Institute, now it's called college. And when we left Rockingham, neither one of us had a job. Neither one of us even had a promise of a job. We went by faith. Yeah. And everything worked out.
How hard was that to tell your wife, hey, we're going to uproot and go pursue this? How tough was that as a husband?
Well, surprisingly, it wasn't that hard. She knew what was going on. Okay. And of course, we just did it. Yeah. And I sold the house I had in Rockingham. I had asked Daddy for a piece of land when I was in the 5th grade on the farm, you might want to say. And I sold the house and the land to my brother. And the reason why I did that, because I said, well, if things get hard, I'll come back home. Yeah. So once I sold it, I couldn't come back home. I had to go.
You removed the safety net.
And so then when I got close to graduating from Fruitland, I thought, wow, what am I going to do now?
How long did that take? How long?
2 years.
That's 2 years, okay.
I got an associate's degree. And 2 years. And by the time I got done with Fruitland, Piney Green Baptist in Sampson County had called me. Okay. I stayed there 8 years. And I've been here, 1st September will be 20.
Wow. Honestly, with the people in ministry I've talked to, mm-hmm. You seem pretty blessed, because a lot of them have had to move around so much, and moving's tough on anybody, much less, you had kids and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, you're pretty fortunate you haven't had to move but a couple of times necessarily. Right. Some people had to move like 20, 30 times, and they're, mm-hmm. My age mm-hmm. doing it.
I'll tell you something funny happened in Hendersonville, though. By the time we got in the house, got settled, I had picked up a part-time job. Well, it was a full-time job at Seneca Foods, riding the forklift. And I'd go to school till 1 o'clock. I was on the forklift at 2 o'clock. Most of the time I didn't get off to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because when the apples were coming in, we were busy. Yeah. And one night my wife said, we're gonna have a baby, and we don't need a baby. And I said, well, somebody must think we do. And we didn't even know where the hospital was. We didn't even know no doctors in town. But he's now pastoring a church in Spencer, North Carolina. Wow. So the Lord knew what he was doing.
Yep, had it all. It's funny how he always has that figured out before we do. I asked you about your favorite thing about calling races. Now I'll flip it on this. I know there's there's so much that goes into pastoring, and it's more than just when you're standing up there, you know, just like race announcing, there's your pre-sermon work, your relationship with the Lord, everything is administrative-wise, I know that goes into it, but when you get down to nuts and bolts, what's something, I won't ask you to say what's your favorite part, because I'm sure there's more than one, but what's something you can highlight that like is just a great part of being a pastor?
Same thing at the racetrack, seeing people grow. I've seen people come in here when they first started coming to church here. Be honest with you, there was really no help. And then all of a sudden you start seeing them grow, and to that person that when they first came here, there's what I would call a knot on the log, all of a sudden they're your deacon, one of your deacons.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're a Sunday school teacher. That's the fun part, seeing people grow.
Gotcha. About to say, and you see just how powerful God can work in people.
That's right.
I've seen people.
And sometimes he takes the ones that you really think's always going to be a knot on the log, and all of a sudden they're doing wow.
Like, how that had to be God. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I almost thought about asking what your favorite scripture is, but again, that would probably be way too tough. But
No, it's not.
It's not?
My favorite scripture is after Jesus resurrected, and he was with the disciples, and he kind of pulled Peter to the side, and it's the scripture where he reinstated Peter. And Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" He asked him 3 times.
Yeah.
And every time Peter said, "Oh, yes, Lord, you know I love you." And then he said, "Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep." And that's my favorite passage, and that keeps me going because I feel like the Lord called me to feed the sheep. Well, I'm at Providence Baptist Church, or Orange County SPeedway, Wake County SPeedway, feed the sheep.
Yeah.
And it's not all time in words. Sometimes you're feeding the sheep in the example that you're living.
Yeah. That's a tough one, too, because we're all, it's easy to fly off the handle and have a temper like everybody else. It's tough to rein that thing in.
Yeah, I've had many people come to me and say, "I can't believe the preacher's got a temper like that."
So, preacher's a sinner like you, man.
The preacher's mad.
Yeah. See, that's where I think I struggle the most is it seems like, and I don't do near what you do, but just in my life, like if I'm like in a season where I am drawn closer and I'm in scripture and I'm praying more than I've ever prayed, it's like the evil side will just throw stuff like right in my way, obstacles. And sometimes I will slip and I will fly off the handle and I'm just like, oh no, like I just hurt my example. Like that's something I struggle with a ton. It's like you have to just, I almost say like you have to learn like techniques to get through it because you're gonna get stuff thrown at you.
I found that sometimes when I feel it building up inside me, I need to walk away.
Yeah.
But sometimes the man in me don't want to walk away because I want to show everybody I'm still the man. But I found if I just walk away, I'm far better off.
Yeah. I'm about to say, and I'm sure in churches and stuff, you think people at the racetrack have tempers and stuff like that. You can find people in church that have tempers and stuff too.
They are.
They're not immune from it.
Yeah,
they're just not on display like the race car drivers.
Sometimes the racetrack's better than the church.
Now here's one. I've always wanted to ask a preacher this. So, because people know that you're a preacher, do you get that little thing where like when you come walking around or something, you'll see them try to like straighten up a little bit because they know you're coming in.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to be the subject of a sermon.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
That's got to be a tough one. You're just like it's okay. Like, don't take the Lord's name in vain around.
Tell it, it's on your heart.
Yeah, it's going to come out eventually.
Yeah. And most of the time I say, I've heard worse and walk away.
I hear you. That's good stuff, brother. Are you the only preacher in your? I know you said. What'd you say? Your son was preaching.
I got all 3 of my sons are ordained. 2 is pastoring churches now. Peter is at Midway Baptist in Polk County, which is where Columbus, North Carolina is at, in the mountains. And then, of course, Thomas, he's just started a church in Spencer, North Carolina.
Did anyone in your family preach before you? Like father, grandfather, uncles, anybody?
Had an uncle. They weren't a blood uncle, but my Uncle Roby was a preacher.
It's funny because, like, you know, it kind of came out of you, and now look at just the net you've cast. Mm-hmm. Just, you know, just off of, you know, your faith in God and how far that's reached now. That's pretty cool to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you stepped out and you had faith and you worked on it, and now look at the net that's been cast from your faith.
Right.
So I think about that as well, especially with what we do on Fridays and Saturdays, is because I learned this the hard way at Ace my first couple of years. Being the most visible employee at a racetrack sometimes has its downsides. People will come up to you and complain about things at the racetrack, but then people will also feel more comfortable to come up and talk to you, and it can be a great opportunity to work that in. Like, hey, you know, what are you doing Sunday morning? You know, do you have somewhere to go?
Oh yeah.
You know, so I've found that too. There's sometimes there's bad, but then a lot of times there's good that comes with it.
Yeah, you always try to find a positive in it, and what you said is probably exactly true. That they feel more comfortable talking to you. And I remember when Agee ran the racetrack. Vance Agee ran the racetrack, had the racetrack at Orange County. I went and talked to him one day, and he said, "What can I help you with?" I said, "I'm here on behalf of your fans, your officials, and your race car drivers."
Oh boy, I bet he.
I'll never forget his expression on his face.
Oh boy. You got to meet anybody famous?
I got a picture in my office, if you want to call him famous. Bobby Allison.
Yes, I would call him famous.
I got to introduce him. I mean, why would you introduce Bobby Allison? But I got to introduce Bobby Allison Orange County one Saturday night. Yeah. And I got my picture of me with my hand on the shoulder. I met Richard Petty, Beanie Parsons. When I lived in Rockingham, right up the road was a place called Ellerby. Yeah. And that's where Beanie lived. That's where my wife lived. And Beanie played third base for the Presbyterian Church in Ellerby. Of course, this goes way back when I was a whole lot younger. I could play softball. Yeah. And if you don't mind, I'll tell a little story about Beanie.
Go right
We had
ahead.
a guy on our team, I won't call his name, before the ball game started. He said, "Beanie, he don't look so tough." And I looked at him, I said, "I don't know, he's got some pretty big arms on him." Well, race car drivers think they're athletes. I get a chance, I'll show him. I said, okay. Well, he got his opportunity. He come around second base, and Beanie was fixing to take the ball coming in third. Instead of the guy sliding like you should have, he's tried to run over Beanie. Well, while we was picking him up off the ground, Beanie was kind of like knocking the dust off his arms like nothing really happened. And we come back to the bench, I said, "You still think Beanie's not no athlete?" He said, "That's like running into a brick wall."
Yep. Don't mess with Benny Parsons, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, Beanie was a big boy.
Did you have any guys that you were fans of and stuff? Like as far as like NASCAR drivers. Like, did you keep up with NASCAR?
Oh, yeah. Growing up in Rockingham, North Carolina Speedway, you had to.
Who was your favorite?
Or
did
David
you have
Pearson.
A favorite? David, Silver Fox.
David Pearson. David was my favorite for a long time, and then when he kind of got out of it, I picked up with Bill Elliott, and of course I reckon everybody got on the Dale Earnhardt train for a while, and
I wasn't allowed to.
But I got to admit though, if you want to go, if this would be next question, who's my favorite? I don't really have a favorite now.
Okay.
I don't know. Not that I still have a little interest in it, but I don't know. It seems like the big, if I call it the big circuit,
yeah,
it's kind of lost me somewhere along the way.
That's a lot of people that say that, so that's fair to say.
But the short tracks, Orange County, Wake, South Austin, Motor Mile, Ace,
yeah,
that's what I really like.
Who's the best you've seen over there? Like just in your local track watching, like who's somebody you just like, man, they had a lot of talent. Like someone you just enjoyed watching.
I would think Lee Pulliam.
Yeah, right now. That's a good one.
I think Lee Pulliam. Yeah. I've seen Lee when he started over here at South Austin running in Limited Sportsman. He won. I watched him get to the late model. He won. He came out here Orange County last year in the big car race, 30,000 to win. He won. Seen him win at Martinsville at the end of the year. He's a winner.
Yeah.
And you go to a racetrack, he's out there. He's one you need to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
It's
hard. It's a hard one for me because Lee's definitely won. Josh Berry, but I got to tell you, there was, I think it was 2011 at Ace. Barry Beggerly had come out of retirement. He'd ran a few races in 2010, and he'd won a few, I think. So he was kind of getting his bearings back about him. And then the following year, he was full steam ahead, running the full thing. And to see someone in their 60s, like Barry was, to go out there and compete with 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and some 20-year-olds that are, on top of their game, and to do what he did and to be as smooth as he was. And it was the funniest thing, Dennis, because I had a great respect for him just for what he did. I would go interview guys in second and third that just, got beat. I'm expecting a little bit of dejection. They're like, no, I'm out here with Barry Beggerly. Like, they were tickled pink. Rodney Cook would be tickled to death to be out there, running with Barry. And it was the weirdest thing I ever saw as an announcer, because you're used to the winner's excited, second's okay, third's a little dejected. All right, now we move on. But it was the weirdest thing. And that, to me, I had a ton of fun that year just watching him. And even a bunch of episodes ago, I went to go interview him, and I still felt like in awe. And he's the most humble guy ever. And I was just like, I'm in Barry Beggerly's shop. Yeah. And he's done a lot of racing in Orange County.
Oh, he has. In fact, add to your story a little bit, or add a story to it. When Barry raced out here at Orange, and probably around that same time, around 210, 211, he won some out here. And I remember one night going into his pits when it was over, and I said, on behalf of all the gray-haired fans, including me, congratulations.
Yeah, he got my grandpa excited, because he was like, I think for him it was like, here's someone near my age that's out there putting a whooping on them.
Well, when Orange County reopened, when Vance had the track, I told Vance, I said, what you need to do now to get your fans back is advertise, come see Barry Beggerly against the Young Guns.
Oh, that would get him. Because when he started coming back, I started seeing a lot more, I got to be careful how I say this, older fans coming out, because they heard that he was back.
Household name.
Yeah. And Lee Pulliam will probably be like that when I get into my 60s. If he's still out there putting a whooping on him when he can, I'll be like, I remember in his 20s and his early 30s when he's winning national championships, he's still putting a whooping on them.
Mm-hmm. But it's really hard to pick out one, though.
It is. Because you know what? You also see the four-cylinder guys, the guys that don't have the big fancy cars, and they can put on just as good a show.
Oh, yeah.
So it's hard to differentiate. Like I love watching at Ace. My favorite was if it was a mini stock race and Michael Tucker, Chuck Wall, and A.J. Sanders was all in the same race. I knew I was going to see a great four-cylinder race, because those three were just phenomenal. They weren't in big cars, four-cylinder, but it was still it could be the race of the night. Mm-hmm. I had a ton of fun with that. Favorite. All right, last one. Favorite division that ain't late models.
Favorite division ain't late model is a very easy answer for me to give you.
All right.
It would be the Bombers at Wake County Speedway.
Now, what is a bomber?
They just like to bring stuff out of the junkyard to put a roll cage in it. And I've been out there, and we were talking about earlier about what we got to do before the race. And I'd be asking the guys, I say, well, what's your car number going to be? Have you got a 17? No, I don't have a 17. Well, let's make it 17. They take a can of paint and a straw 17 on it. One of the guys had a DirecTV satellite on top of his race car one year.
Huh.
And I had fun when he hit the wall. I said, well, he's watching TV again, fans. Maybe he gets his attention where it needs to be. And if he got beside somebody or somebody got beside him, I said, well, they're watching television together, people. And we had the best fun with that car. But all of them were just older cars. And
like the old Camaros and Monte Carlos and stuff?
Oh, man, anything. They may bring a station wagon out there. I do know a guy asked Charlie one night, could he run a van? And Charlie said, no. And we ain't going to go that far with it. But whatever you bring, you can race. And but now I have said this, last year a boy named Jeff Action Jackson won the championship. And he's a different character in his own self, but I had the most fun calling races with Jeff Action Jackson.
That's a good nickname to have.
It was fun. They usually run about, on a given night, we'll have 15 to 18 of them.
Okay.
And they just have fun, and they run for very little money, but they're just like one big old family down there.
Heck yeah.
But that's my favorite division, the Bombers. In fact, a guy was there one night interviewing me as I was the announcer, and he was putting it on his podcast or what he was going to do. And he wanted to talk about late models, and I said, "Man, you can get people at Wake County. Let's talk about the Bombers."
Yeah, that'll get them. That's something right there. And they ain't got too much invested. If they wreck it, it's like, yeah, okay. Like I'm not as torn out the frame as I am if I'd wreck my late model.
They running probably not. I ain't gonna say half the speed, but they're going a whole lot slower than the other racers. But I've seen them going the first turn 4 wide.
Oh gosh, that's when you start leaning like, man, I might have to preach over somebody's funeral. We
but
do
they
this
do
too
it.
much.
A late model can't do that.
No, they won't. They'll back out of it. They're not gonna risk that. That ain't worth it to them. Oh shoot. Well, brother, I appreciate your time, and hopefully this stuff moves on out of here and we can get back to calling races on Fridays and Saturdays. But I always appreciate you, and I might make it a point to come out to Orange County since I got more free time this year to just sit back and listen. I haven't actually gotten to sit and listen to you, you know.
Okay.
I gotta make a point of that. Okay. I just don't give me a shout out. Okay. Don't pick on me. I
won't.
I love picking on people as an announcer.
Okay.
I'll tell you a quick story before I close it off. This girl, her name is Lindsay. She's a sister of one of my best friends, and she would come to the racetrack because her brother was running 4-cylinder front wheel drives. We call them extremes at Ace, but U cars. And I'd always wave at her and stuff, and I could pick with her because I knew her. And she wore this T-shirt that said Reese Cups, and I kept just throwing jabs at it left and right. And she sent me a text message. She's like, "I'm never wearing this shirt again at the racetrack." And I said, "Well, that's what you get when you sit too close for the race announcer to see what you want." Right. But no, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for listening to yet another edition of the Half Price Concessions Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, Himalaya, Castro, whatever podcast app you're using. Please hit the subscribe button. If there's a section to leave us a rating and review, please leave us a good one. It would really help us out a ton. Also, if you're listening on our YouTube page, hit the subscribe button there. That way, you'll get notified every time we put out new episodes. Also, you can email the show. The email address is halfpricedconcessionspodcast@gmail.com. You can email us questions, concerns, ideas for future episodes, anything and everything. We'll definitely respond to it, and we just appreciate you listening. Also, if you have friends or family who want to listen but don't want to go to YouTube and don't have a podcast app, you can listen to every episode on our website. That's www.anchor.fm/HPC podcast. Thank you for listening. My name is Tyler Williams, and I hope that you have a great day.